Supreme Court. The certificate admitting her to the Supreme Court. So figured this was appropriate. There's a lot of Supreme Court stuff going on. So for the lovely folks to see, even though, of course, judged by it, I don't think anyone can actually see it. But we know it's there.
Yeah.
And now they know it's there.
And it's really like a lot of exciting Supreme Court stuff has been going on. I mean, last week, what was that case?
We don't have to talk this long. Oh, the Viking case? Yeah, Viking cruises.
That was funny.
We'll cover that and more. But we'll go ahead and get going. We're live online.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining our weekly live stream, the Unauthorized Caucus. I'm Joanna, and this is Ryan Hite. We come to you from the Phyllis Schlafly Center in Clayton, Missouri. And again, we're having our weekly live stream, the Unauthorized Caucus. If you have joined our live stream before, you know what we always say, go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel and share it with your friends. That helps us out a lot. Also, then you won't miss any videos that we post. And over the next week, we're going to be posting a lot of videos on YouTube from our Collegians event last week. And if you saw our live stream, you heard all about that event. And if you did not see that video, it is on our YouTube channel, and we give behind the scenes information on our Collegians event. But definitely check those out and like and subscribe to our channel and share this video as well. But today we have two brand new topics that we are going to cover with you.
Indeed. And there are a lot of topics that are going on. I know that right now we're all watching the Supreme Court with bated breath. Last week when we were in D.C. For our Collegian Summit, we went out the next morning on Wednesday. It was a decision day. They were releasing 5 decisions, or was it 6? I forget. But we went out front because there's a lot of activity. There is a police line down the center, and then 2 different sides, the pro-life and the pro-abortion sides arguing. So every day it seems there's 5 or 6 opinions. But this week we've had a lot. We've had some big ones too. And that's what we wanted to talk about. I know if any of you are watching, you've already seen some of our press releases and statements that have gone out, including one today, just a few minutes ago, that we sent out. But we wanted to jump on and talk, like we always do, about things that we're discussing here behind the scenes. So the 2 big ones that happened this week, one of them is actually tied into Congress. I'm sure that all of you have seen the new gun control legislation that's coming through Congress. Guns have been a pretty big topic this week. Not only today's Supreme Court, today's Supreme Court opinion that overturned, or rather rejected, how New York's concealed carry laws are put forward as being burdensome and a violation of people's Second and 14th Amendment rights. But the Senate, with the help of 14 Republicans, has decided to advance what we deem as a very unconstitutional gun control bill that's also fraught with a bunch of wasteful spending. So we've talked about that a little bit, but I know that a lot of these phrases get thrown around. So we've kind of been discussing, what's this actually mean? You know, red flag laws, where does it go? So we wanted to sit down and talk about this real quick in a few minutes, and then move on to education as well. But let me just start with this, Joanna, because I know that like I've talked about policy on here, and I'm a big Second Amendment guy, but red flag laws, immediately, how would you define red flag laws for someone? And then what would you say is the primary problem with that? Like what does it affect the most?
Well, I have to admit, I did not know what a red flag law was until probably a few years ago. I would have to say 4 or 5 years ago myself. And a red flag law, at first it sounds really good, because it basically means that if you know someone who could harm themselves and they have a firearm in the home, or maybe they could be deemed mentally unstable, you can report that, and those guns can be removed from the home. And that sounds good, especially if maybe someone's in a relationship that they could be harmed by a gun, or maybe that person could harm themselves. But really, that law has not been, or would not be, helpful, because easily someone who was upset with someone who owned a firearm, they could accuse them, even though they were mentally fine or there were no issues, they could accuse them of being unstable, and those firearms could be removed. So it's really not helpful. So that's what I understand about it.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. I mean, that's very similar to what I would say as well. The big problem with this is it's not even, and you know, the interesting thing about red flag laws, this isn't just a Second Amendment issue. This has to do with the due process, with, you know, unlawful search and seizure, you know, the due process rights that were given. This goes across all of the Bill of Rights. Like I say, not every single one of them, but across the spectrum of the Bill of Rights, because there has to be a system in place in our, you know, in our justice system where if you're going to be deprived of your rights, this needs to be handled in a, you know, very correct manner. And the problem with red flag laws is, and we actually have a fantastic one-pager on this.
Yes.
Let me post this as I'm talking about it. The main thing we have to do is try to define this for people. This isn't just this isn't the due process of a search warrant and a judge necessarily coming in and we're hearing testimony from all the sides and deciding to remove firearms from your possession while we're deciding if you've an imminent threat to someone or if you have harmed someone. These are laws that essentially enable the forcible removal of a citizen's firearms based on the testimony of someone else who claims that you're a danger to them or that they're worried about you being a danger to someone else. You don't necessarily get to even speak on your own behalf as the accused before your right to own a firearm is suspended. This is really dangerous. This goes beyond firearms. Like, what other rights can you suspend without hearing from me, the accused? This is almost more a due process concern than firearms when you really get down into it. I mean, this is pretty scary stuff.
And I was going to mention, when they take the firearms from the home, they will hold those, and you have to sometimes pay for them as they're being held, and you might not get them back, or it might not even be processed or handled for 5 years. Is what some people are saying.
Yeah. And the reason we're talking about this is because the Senate gun control package that's been pushed through, the reason we're seeing a lot of moderate or even worse, just liberal Republicans capitulate to this and vote for it. A lot of folks are saying, oh, well, this isn't infringing on Second Amendment rights because we're not taking away anyone's guns. We're not restricting access. We're just wanting to make sure that we can correctly report and protect the public from people who are dangerous. So it's not really about the gun, it's about people who are dangerous. Yeah, but it's about due process. And we at this point you start running down the road when you talk about red flag laws too long to the old Minority Report argument. You remember the Tom Cruise movie from about probably 20 years ago now, where this machine sees into the future and they're arresting people based on the prediction of a crime that they will eventually commit. This is the thought police. We arrest people. We operate our justice system based on actions that are taken, not your perceived intent assumed upon another person. That's a really dangerous road to run down. And that's exactly what these do. And that is the basis of this bill that is running through the Senate. There's a few other things, including what I think the left refers to as the boyfriend loophole. We talked all about it. Again, I'll post this, our statement about this 80-page bill. But the due process side of this is really the very dangerous side of this. They're not advancing, magazine bans or assault weapons bans or some of the more outright things. It's really sneaky, and it's a thing to be fought tooth and nail just as much as some outright ban. And we want people to know that. We want people to understand what it is that's in this and why it's so bad, and also why it's actually kind of pernicious, because they can lie about it and say it's not gun control. Oh, this is person control. No, this is suspending our due process, which permeates all the other issues. This isn't just guns. This is all sorts of stuff.
Because once you go down that road, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, you won't get it back. So we just sent out a few articles. Make sure and go and click through some of those. We're going to move topics here, but the Federalist had a great something about it. And one of the things to note, and this is my final thought, this is just atrociously unrelated to school safety. Everything in this bill, for the most part, other than suspending due process, a lot of this stuff would really not have that much bearing. If you start looking into it, there's stuff about Medicare and Medicaid, and then they have, grants for different mental health programs, which sounds like it might be connected to some of the disturbed individuals who commit these mass shootings. When you look into it, this bill really has not a thing to do with protecting our schools, when there are so many different hard options immediately on the table to consider that would defend our kids in schools, which I think is what everyone really says that they want to do. Although the reason we're here talking about it is because we know there's a political left that also would like to disarm American citizens along the way at the expense and the using of school kids. So that's why we're here to talk about it.
The last thing I would say on this is, again, check out that one pager that we have on red flag laws. And we have a bunch of one pagers on our website at phyllisschlafly.com. So if you go to phyllisschlafly.com, then you go into the search bar and just say one pagers, you'll see a whole list of one pagers that we've written over the last few years. Actually, Ryan and Jordan have. Yeah,
and it's a great set of resources to be able to break down some of the hottest issues. So if you have a suggestion on those, something you don't see that you wish you would have had a fact sheet to be able to explain to someone, please email us, info@phyllisschlafly.com. Give us a suggestion. And then let me make as we make a topic here, let me remind everyone, please do, wherever you're watching, if it's on Facebook or YouTube, leave us a comment, or if you're on Twitter or somewhere else, or you're listening, you shoot us an email. Ryan at phyllisschlafly.com. I'll pick it up. If you have a question, drop it in the comments. We've got Love Horses here is reminding me of great. If you want to understand red flag laws and why they're bad, she's right. Or he or she. I say, I don't know. I just revealed my sexist bias there. Someone who loves horses must be a girl. You understand. Anyway, what we say here, though, Captain America Winter Soldier is, for your Hollywood eyes, they had an excellent indictment of red flag laws and of the prosecution and the persecution of people who are deemed a threat before there's any sort of action or crime, or just, well, you're at risk of being a threat. I mean, that movie deals with these themes, and of course, a really thematic and Hollywood superhero way. But I was shocked when I first saw Captain America Winter Soldier. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is government surveillance and the NSA and red flag laws and due process. Like, we're dealing with all this stuff. And it was a really interesting study. So you want to have a fun movie weekend with your older kids and with your family or something, do that one, which covers the same topic. But let's hop here. We've got, we promised you guns, religion, and schools. Oh my. So let's hop over to schools. It was a banner week. Not only did today we have the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin came down, striking down New York's burdensome concealed carry law, but Carson v. Macon. Did we decide it was Macon?
We did decide it was Macon. That's
decided.
What I've heard multiple people
see, and we've decided. It doesn't matter what it is. You see now,
yes.
We've decided our own truth. We can adopt the liberal position if we need to. But Carson v. Macon came out. What it did essentially was a huge win for Maine families, striking down a Maine law that essentially disallowed people from using school vouchers or money that's given to Maine families. You can't use it at religious schools and institutions. And the Supreme Court came down and said, no, that's not how that works. That is absolutely limiting people's free exercise, which the First Amendment referenced, the free exercise of religion. If a state is, and then the Supreme Court's held this before, I think we sent out a couple of articles that talk about this. If the state is giving money to students and their families, if educational dollars are following families, the student, then those families can choose. If it's a religious institution, that's just fine. You cannot prevent them from using it. That would be the state restricting an individual's free exercise of religion, which this is huge. This is not only an excellent decision, but I was just talking with Gwen in our office here this morning about that. This is a broad decision, because so often we'll kind of complain that the Supreme Court decisions that come down are so narrow and so small that it really just leaves a lot of room around it. They're dealing with this little bitty issue, but they don't take on the broad issue and give kind of a sweeping, which sometimes with bad decisions, we're glad they don't do that, because it leaves us some other avenues. But in this case, this was a very broad and sweeping, no. School choice, vouchers, educational dollars following the student, the state, the government level cannot prevent a family from choosing to use those at a religious school or institution. And that was about it. I mean, it didn't get much more specific. So that's a broad ruling that's going to have implications across all of this. But I mean, this begs the question, what is school choice? We talk about school choice a lot, but you found a couple interesting articles. Do you want to kind of, if anyone else is confused, maybe we can clarify in, a couple minutes or so, what does school choice mean? And I think I've just given the answer, but I'll let you connect the dots.
So to explain this as best as I understand it, each state has different school choice options, whether they're a voucher program or a tax credit. It's different ways. I believe there's 4 different ways that it works. But school choice is a hot topic right now. I know we talk about that a lot around here, especially our president, Ed Martin of the Phyllis Schlafly Eagles. He talks about that on his radio show all the time and how important it is to have that school choice, that option to be able to send your kids to any school you want to. This is especially helpful for families who are in like low income level. It gives them the option to be able to send their kids anywhere they like to. They don't have to just stick with the public schools, especially if they're in a school district that is honestly just like not the best for their kids to be in. They don't have great academic levels that they need to be at. So this is a great option for the low income families to be able to send their kids to a private school if that's what they want to use their money with. And whether or not it's religious or not, that's what they can use it for. But again, there's like 4 different voucher or school choice options. And that's what I understand. Maine, I don't know if I'm allowed to give this bold of an opinion on it.
This, you know what? This is an unauthorized caucus.
Sure.
So this is your personal opinion. Feel free. Just
this is
throw it out
a
there.
huge win for Maine, and I will say that especially for religious liberty in that state. But from what I read, it doesn't sound like they have the greatest option. If I'm wrong, put that in the comments. Let me know. There are other states that have better school choice options than that, but at least they're moving in the right direction, and hopefully many, many more states will. I was doing a quick Google search today, and there's not enough states who have school choice options. I will say that. Mm-hmm. I think there was 10 or 15.
Oh yeah, and this is, it's really interesting because as conservatives, this is kind of fun. We get to horn, of course, this reveals the hypocrisy of the left, but the left is always the one talking about justice issues. I mean, we believe in justice too, but the social justice issues, racial justice, everything is justice. Well, this is absolutely one of the educational injustices that we face is watching government dump taxpayer money into schools. Mm-hmm. And it locks people into educational choices and it locks people in and not giving them educational choices. It forces families who are stuck in bad school districts to be stuck there, moving toward a system of school choice, which is a traditionally, I would say, conservative issue. Mm-hmm. This is one of the biggest, ways that we can seek out what you could almost label educational justice. But really, if we're going to take taxpayer dollars and send it toward education, why do we not attach that to the student? We are spending money on this student so that the student can make the best decision. If that means going to a different school outside their failing school, the zip code that they live in, we hear that phrase a lot. If that means that, great. If it means going to a faith-based school because that's what they want to do, great. We are allowing families, parents, to make the best choice for and with their kids. What better thing could we do? And then what worse thing could we do other than to limit these choices and shove them in? I love it. I posted an ACLJ article that kind of talks about what she was just talking about. It kind of explains what is school choice. Really, you would think this would be one of the biggest issues of the left with all of the justice movements that they proclaim all the time. And yet this one, of course, school choice is kind of left to conservatives to talk about, which is very interesting because it's about parental rights. It's about good opportunities for kids. And really, it's the injustice of the way that, educational money has flowed through that has nothing to do with students and everything to do with unions and state employees and different things. And don't hear me indicting every teacher out there. That's not what this is about. But I mean, there are structures behind this, even down to the curriculum makers that are making money off of this instead of us sending this money toward, propping up our next generations to be ready to go, and I don't even mean workforce ready or anything like that, but just, to have had a good educational experience. This is some interesting hypocrisy that should be turned around on the left more often. And hopefully this gives a lot of states some clearance to do that because this is a major and broad ruling from the Supreme Court. And let's see, what else do we want to talk about? We're closing in here. On the 20-minute mark. Let me double check our comments. I'm seeing them come in from YouTube and from a few other places. By the way, thank you, Love Horses, for laughing at that, my comment. You still didn't tell us. Although I guess I'd be demanding that someone pick one of two genders, which is also politically incorrect nowadays to have to ask for us. That's fine. Single income families, that's right. Someone down here, thumbs up to homeschooling. We are big homeschool advocates. Yes. It's a great option. And that's another thing as I'm reading through these, I'm reminded, if anything revealed the need for school choice and parents to be able to pick or families to be able to pick where they do and don't want to go, even students to say, I don't want to go here anymore, 2020 and 2021, man. Thank you, teachers unions, for being the biggest reason why people are shifting to be in favor of school choice. Because now that they see the politics that's played and how it's almost about everything but the betterance of your children, people are ready to move on and make their own decisions. Let me see.
And involved with school choice with homeschooling is, I know that we were talking about this in the office I was talking with Gwen about it, and how not only were some states, the tax money, homeschoolers were allowed to use that to buy curriculum for their kids, but then it ended up being that they were told that they had to buy specific curriculum. And it might not be the faith-based curriculum that they wanted. So they eventually were just like, nope, never mind. We don't want to use our tax money for that anymore. We're just going to spend the money out of our own pockets and get what we would like to use for our own children. So with school choice, it's also another option that states need to allow for homeschoolers is that if they do use that money, to be able to use that money on whatever curriculum they want to use for any religions.
Yeah, absolutely. I see someone here talking about, this is another good resource we didn't mention, HSLDA, Homeschool Legal Defense Association. They have a lot of great resources on this. Even if you're not a homeschool student, there's still a wealth of information on that website at HSLDA to talk about this. So yeah, that's that. I think we've covered a lot. We should probably wrap it down. It's really only 2 subjects, but these are 2 landmark things going on from the Supreme Court and from Congress. And there's a lot of weird nuance, school choice, red flag. What do these things mean? That, hopefully this conversation's been edifying to some of you and has been able to give you either ammunition to go and talk to other people. You knew what you thought, but you didn't quite know, how to say it. Or it's helped solidify, yeah, that's right. That is why I oppose that, that's stuff to work through. As these things come out, we have to sit here and say, now, how do we break this down? But also, like, where do we sit on this? Because some of these things get into the real, areas of gray shade, and this would be okay, but do we trust the government to do it? There's a lot of nuance. So anything that we can do to share our discussions with you, we enjoy doing. Where can they find us?
They can find us at phyllisschlafly.com. If you have any questions, you can email those to ryan@phyllisschlafly.com. And don't forget to like our page and subscribe and share this video if it was helpful to you, or share some of our other past videos. Check those all out. We upload at least one a week. But over the next couple weeks, we're going to be uploading a bunch more Collegians event last week. So definitely check those out. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. And we will see you next Thursday for another Unauthorized